You're standing in the mud at the edge of the Nile. It's dawn. The water is warm around your ankles. You bend down to wash your face, like you've done 100 times. The river feels calm, peaceful even. You don't feel anything touch you. That's the problem. Something just entered your skin. It's smaller than a grain of rice. It swam out of a snail shell an hour ago, looking for exactly one thing: you. Now it's inside your blood, heading for your liver, and there is nothing in this entire era that can stop it. You didn't get bitten. You didn't get stung. You just washed your face. And here's the part nobody tells you. This won't kill you today. It'll take years. You'll feel fine for a long, long time. That's what makes ancient Egypt so good at killing you. The danger doesn't announce itself. It waits. You have no idea you're already infected. Now picture the same moment today. You're on a trip to Egypt in 2026. You wash your face in a hotel sink. Filtered water, chlorine. You don't think about it once. If you did somehow pick up this parasite, a doctor gives you a couple of pills called praziquantel. You're cured in a day. It costs less than lunch. You'd forget it ever happened. That's the entire difference. Today, it's a footnote. Back then, it was a slow, invisible death sentence you couldn't see coming and couldn't cure. And the water wasn't optional. The Nile was everything. Your drinking water, your crops, your bath, your toilet, your highway. You couldn't just avoid it. Avoiding the Nile meant starving in a desert instead. So you went back in every single day. And every single day, the river took a little more of you. Modern life put a wall between you and the water. A tap, a pipe, a pill. The ancient Egyptian had none of that. Just skin. And a river that was quietly full of things trying to get inside it. You think you'd notice. You wouldn't. So here's what this video is going to prove. The thing that made ancient Egypt deadliest wasn't the pharaohs, the wars, or the desert sun. It was the one thing that kept everyone alive. The Nile itself was the murderer, and you'd trust it right up until it finished you. The first threat is the parasite already inside you. It's called schistosomiasis, bilharzia for short. Those tiny worms travel to your bladder and start laying eggs, up to hundreds a day. Your body panics. It attacks its own tissue. You start bleeding when you urinate. The worm burrows through your skin, rides your blood to your liver, then settles in your bladder where the females lay eggs. This isn't a theory. A meta-analysis found that up to 65% of Egyptian mummies were positive for schistosomiasis, 2 out of 3 bodies, and chronic infection is a known road to bladder cancer. But what about the things you can actually see coming? What about the water that eats you all at once instead of slowly? Step into the shallows and you're sharing them. The Nile crocodile can grow to 6 meters long, and there are many tales of ancient Egyptians being killed by them. 20 feet of ambush predator that waits under the surface. A blow from a large crocodile's tail could smash the backbone of its victim. The Egyptians knew who was most at risk: sailors, water carriers, fishermen, launderers, the marsh workers, basically everyone with a job. And here's the one you'd never expect to fear: the hippo. Cute in a cartoon, a nightmare in real life. They weren't just big, they owned the river. Both these animals could attack in water and on land, so nowhere was safe from them. A hippo could flip your papyrus boat in a second. It could crush you on land while you farmed. The Egyptians feared it so much, they turned it into a goddess, hoping worship would keep it away. It didn't. 3 killers, 1 river, and you need that river to live. So how do you actually survive a place where the water is trying to kill you 3 different ways? You don't fight the river. You can't. It's too big, too old, too full of teeth. What actually keeps you alive is something you'd never guess. Knowledge. Written down. Passed on. The ancient Egyptians built the closest thing this era had to real medicine. There's a scroll called the Edwin Smith Papyrus. It's the oldest known surgical treatise on trauma, describing 48 cases of injuries, fractures, wounds, and tumors. This is your lifeline. Not magic, not prayer. A step-by-step manual for keeping a broken body alive. Among the treatments are closing wounds with sutures, bandaging, splints, poultices, preventing infection with honey, and stopping bleeding with raw meat. Honey on a wound 3,500 years ago. And it worked because honey actually kills bacteria. Why does this one thing decide if you live? Because in this era, the injury doesn't kill you, the infection does. A crocodile takes a chunk of your leg, sure, but it's the days after, the fever, the rot, that finishes most people. If nobody knows how to clean and close that wound, you're gone within a week. That scroll's methodical, rational approach is the difference between a scar and a grave. Now here's the part nobody talks about. That brutal river, it accidentally made the Egyptians healthier than their neighbors in one strange, specific way. The Nile flooded every single year. It drowned the fields in fresh silt, free fertilizer, dropped from upstream right onto the crops. And because of that, the Egyptians didn't have to do what everyone else did. They didn't fertilize their fields with human waste. That one accident of geography saved them from a whole category of disease. The near absence of whipworm and roundworm, so common in neighboring civilizations, may have come from those yearly floods fertilizing the land, so farmers didn't have to use human waste on crops. Think about that. The same river that filled you with blood flukes also protected you from the gutworms that tormented everyone else on Earth. It gets stranger. Ancient Egyptian doctors were treating the guinea worm, a parasite that erupts through your skin, with a trick so good, we still use it. You wrap the emerging end of the worm around a stick and slowly pull it out. 3,500 years later, that's still the standard treatment. The horror created the cure. That's Egypt in one sentence. Let me show you just how real all of this is. Around 1900 BCE, Egyptian physicians wrote about a disease by its symptom, blood in the urine. The earliest description occurs in the Kahun papyrus. They were documenting bilharzia before anyone knew what caused it. By 1550 BCE, they went further. A cause in a parasite is proposed in the Ebers papyrus, and bladder cancer is recorded as a known complication in the Chester Beatty papyrus. Ancient people naming cancer. Fast forward to the pyramid workers of the Old Kingdom, roughly 4,500 years ago. Their bones tell the story. Exhumed skeletons show compressed vertebrae from carrying heavy loads, and even missing fingers and limbs. And most of them died in their 30s. But here's the twist. In those same bones, they were being treated. Most fractures had healed completely, meaning they'd been set with a splint, and 2 cases suggested successful amputations. One worker survived losing a limb and lived 14 years after the operation. There's even evidence they went inside the skull. X-rays revealed what may be the earliest evidence of brain surgery, a worker operated on for a tumor. And the crocodiles weren't a legend. They were sacred and terrifying at once. Many mummified crocodiles have been found in cemeteries, some still displayed in temple sanctuaries today. They worshipped the thing that ate them, hoping it would spare them. Every one of these is a real find, from real ground, telling the same story. This river gave, and it took. So why did the Nile, the source of all that life, become such an efficient killer? A team led by Egyptologist Rosalie David at the University of Manchester spent years chasing that exact question. Through the Manchester Egyptian Mummy Project, her team used modern lab techniques to hunt for disease inside the mummies themselves. To clarify the spread of schistosomiasis in ancient Egypt, they used modern laboratory techniques to detect the disease in mummies. Building a picture from the Old Kingdom around 2686 BC all the way to the end of the Roman period. Here's the deeper why they uncovered. The very thing that made Egypt a superpower, irrigation, is what made the disease explode. When you dig canals and hold water on the land year-round, you build the perfect home for the snails that carry the parasite. Standing water plus bare human skin equals infection, on repeat, for thousands of years. Their location along the Nile, their farming, the climate, and the aquatic snails decided which parasites thrived. In other words, the Egyptians engineered their own plague. They controlled the river to feed millions, and in controlling it, they turned every field into a place where the worms could reach them. Success and sickness came from the exact same shovel. Now, here's why this should scare you personally. You think you're safe because you have taps and treatment plants. You are, until the wall between you and the water goes down. And that wall is thinner than you think. A single failure, a broken treatment plant, a flood, a hurricane, a burst main, and your city's water becomes exactly what the Nile was. Standing, warm, and full of things you can't see. It's already happened. After major floods and storms, the same waterborne infections come roaring back into modern neighborhoods within days. And your instinct, the same one that killed the Egyptian at dawn, is still wired into you. When you're thirsty enough, you drink. When the water's right there, you use it. You don't stop to picture the snail, or the parasite, or the microbe. Nobody does. The Egyptians had one defense we lost. They knew the river was dangerous. They respected it. We turned a handle and forgot the water was ever alive. Take away the pipe, and you're the stick figure at the riverbank again, bending down, trusting the water, not knowing what just went in. So let's go back to that dawn. You at the edge of the Nile, ankles in the warm water, face still dripping. Now you know what's coming. The parasite already swimming toward your liver. The crocodile watching from the shallows. The hippo that owns the far bank. The infection that turns a small wound into a funeral. And the strange, brilliant medicine. The honey and the splints and the surgeon's scroll. That's the only thing standing between you and the grave. You'd survive by respecting the water, by cleaning every wound, by never, ever trusting the calm. That was the whole trick. Fear the thing that keeps you alive. The Egyptians lived 4,000 years beside a river that fed them and killed them in the same breath. They built wonders on top of it, and they never once got to relax. Here's the last thing to sit with. The deadliest place in the ancient world wasn't the desert. It was the water everyone was grateful for.